All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for the Q2 2024 Partner All Hands call. Once again, we're excited to have you here and just want to thank you for continuing your partnership with E1. We truly, truly appreciate your partnership. Excited to continue to work with you through the end of the year and then, of course, all the years to come. I'm going to go ahead and jump in right away. We'll talk about my agenda. There we go. So for the agenda today, of course, we are going to cover once again the biggest thing coming that has been happening this quarter is our pricing changes. So I will review those once again, things that have happened, things that are yet to come with that. We'll talk about our customers getting PopDoc and when that's going to happen. Chris Braddock on my team, our customer success manager, will go through how we're going to use that, what that means for you as well as of July 1st. We're going to turn it over to Chris Hansen. After that, he will talk through new Smart Connect features that are coming and some that have already been released as well in this quarter. And then we're going to turn it over to Rod O'Connor, our jack of all trades, to talk about how we can use Smart Connect with our Automate. It seems to be a hot topic recently, so we're going to talk about that for just a few minutes. And then, of course, end with some Q&A. Once again, you can always type questions into the chat as well throughout the thing. We do have some moderators as well in the background, so they can answer those as we go. And of course, we can read those off at the end. All right, so let's jump in. The first thing I want to say is that E1 is 100% committed to you as our reselling partners, and E1 has spent an incredible amount of time to ensure that our mutual customers continue to stick with you for the next 10 years. They continue to stick with E1 for the next 10 plus years as well, whether that be staying on GP today or other on-premise systems such as Nav today, or moving to a new cloud-based ERP system. And how we're doing that is by changing our pricing plan so that way we can help them get access to the most modern versions of our products through E1's iPaaS suite of products. So let's take a look at what that means and what's already changed. As many of you are aware, on June 1st, the first set of pricing changes took effect. So anyone that has came to our website and purchased a new Smart Connect subscription or PopDoc subscription is now underneath the new pricing plan. I'm just going to point out a few of the bigger changes that happened here. On our new Smart Connect pricing, we have a new 12-month subscription commitment. You'll also notice that we added another bucket. So we have a new bucket for migration type licensing. So let's say that you have a customer wanting to move from GP to Business Central and move those master records, but only want access to Smart Connect for 3 months and don't want to commit to a 12-month subscription. We're going to give you that license for 3 months. You'll also notice that our other pricing plans are pretty similar to how they were before. We're still counting the number of connections that they have. So for example, I like to think of it more as a system, right? I'm connecting to GP as a connection, SQL as a connection, files as one connection, et cetera, et cetera. So the connections are still there. You will also continue to have dual rights access to Smart Connect on-premise and smartconnect.com on any of our subscriptions as well. A few of the bigger things that have changed, and I want to specifically point this out as there has been a little bit of confusion around this, the processing records and the scheduling frequency only apply to smartconnect.com. They do not apply to Smart Connect on-premise for those that are or that have had questions around that. So only apply to smartconnect.com, these two things. The other thing that we've done is we've made it easier if you have a premium connection. So F&O is a premium connection and NetSuite is our other premium connection. If you have those as connections, we've made it easier for you to get into, let's say, a startup tier at a lower amount versus having to purchase that premium tier to get that premium connection. So we've added that as an add-on to the startup, business, and premium tiers. Our new PopDoc pricing also went live on the 1st of June. Some fun things that we changed in here is we removed the limitation around users. Excuse me. We no longer have user limitations. We are only counting queries now. So what that means is anytime somebody refreshes a list within PopDoc, that's where that query count is taking place. For your GP customers, if you have customers on GP, those customers still fall in that business or premium tier. They're still going to get that full suite of product or that full Smart List suite underneath the business or premium tiers, which include Smart List Builder, Smart View, and of course, access to PopDoc. The other thing that we've done here is once again made it easier to get into a lower pricing tier by adding on more of like an a la carte type thing, right? So being able to add this scheduling on. So maybe I want to schedule that list to be sent to me once a day or once a month or whatever it is. And of course, being able to add on matrix reporting or the query builder add-on as well underneath this business tier. So more options there underneath each of those tiers for flexibility. The other thing that changed on the 1st of June was that we released new iPaaS bundle pricing. And so what that means is we had a lot of partners saying, hey, I have a customer that wants both access to Smart Connect and PopDoc subscription plans. Can you get me a discount? Well, instead of having to ask for that now, we just give you a 20% discount now on a bundle plan when you purchase both of those solutions together, right? So that whole suite of product is going to cover you across all of your different scenarios. You're going to cover the migration, you're going to cover the integration, and you're going to cover the reporting aspect of those customer needs, which I can guarantee almost every single one of your customer needs all of those things, or at least the integration and the reporting side of things as well. Not to mention it also includes that virtual integration piece with PopDoc. So we're making it easier to get into that business plan. It ends up being about a 20% discount when you purchase that business or premium tier plan. The other thing that you'll notice is that we have a migration subscription bundle as well. So for those customers that want access to Smart Connect, let's say to move master records for 3 months, but also PopDoc, right? Because PopDoc has the piece to it where you can push data, let's say to an Azure Data Lake or Amazon Warehouse, for example, and then display that data inside of that new ERP, such as NetSuite, Business Central, Acumatica, etc. So this is a really great option for your customers wanting to move off of their legacy system. One other thing to mention is that the renewals or the current subscription customers, those customers, their pricing was also changed starting June 1st. So any of those auto payments on subscriptions, those will get charged the new pricing this month if you haven't already seen that. So let's talk about what's yet to come. So on the 1st of July is when our next series of pricing changes happen. On the 1st of July, we have some really, really exciting stuff happening. Not only will all of your customers that own a Smart List Builder or a Smart View license that are current on that license, they will get access to PopDoc for free starting July 1st. So this is Really, really fun. Chris Braddock is going to be talking a bit more about this in a little bit, but I am very excited about this. On your customer's next renewal date, so when their current SmartList Builder expires or their current SmartView expires, they will get moved to a PopDoc subscription, okay? So that PopDoc subscription, once again, includes access to PopDoc, the most modern version of SmartList Builder. Think of it as the evolution of SmartList Builder, or SmartView and SmartList Builder combined. Not only are they going to get access to their GP lists, they're going to be able to use PopDoc as a web-based application to be able to connect to outside data now as well, right? They're going to be able to connect to their CRM data, their Salesforce data, their WooCommerce data, anything with a REST-based API or SQL, okay? They're then going to be able to take that PopDoc list and embed it where they want to work, okay? So it's giving them access to those lists. It's getting them used to using a modern tool. They're going to be able to use it if and when the time comes to migrate off of that ERP system as well. So you're really setting your customer up for success, whether they're staying on GP today or moving off of it in the future. What this means for pricing wise is on the next expiration date, they receive a 60% discount off of the subscription for the first 3 years and 20% off that subscription for the following 3 years. They can also stack discounts on top. So if they pay a year in advance, like they would normally do for their SmartList Builder or SmartView renewal, they would receive an additional 5% off on top of that 60% off, for example. So we have a lot of options to be able to stack discounts on top of each other as well. But an incredible amount of value there with a very large discount. So that once again is happening on the 1st of July. The other thing is for our current Smart Connect on-premise customers or those perpetual customers. So they have two different options. The first is their perpetual license is going to change to an on-premise subscription, and I'm doing finger quotes. You can't see me do them, but that's what I'm doing. Essentially, nothing changes product-wise. Nothing has to change billing-wise either. You can still bill them a year in advance like you normally would. They're just going to see a small increase on their pricing. It's about a 20% increase. The other option is, and a lot of people have this corporate strategy, is moving them to a subscription pricing. So if they move to a business or premium tier or an iPaaS plan, right, both PopDoc and Smart Connect together, they're going to once again get a very deep discount, 60% off the subscription for 3 years, 20% off that subscription for the following 3 years. Okay, so once again, those subscriptions continue to have access to Smart Connect on-prem. They'll have access to smartconnect.com in the future as well. So really, really exciting things for those customers to get onto the most modern versions of Smart Connect. If you have a customer, I know this is a common question that I've had when we went through these pricing models with most of you, if not all of you at this time. The other option is that if you have a customer that has both SmartList Builder and Smart Connect perpetual licensing, their best pricing option is to move to an iPaaS business plan or premium plan. So they're going to get not only that 60% discount, but they're going to get an additional 20% off for bundling. So highly consider that when you have a customer that has both of those perpetual licensing products currently. So very big discount. If you pay that per year, they obviously get an additional 5% discount, which is displayed on the screen here, and that's billed at $36.48 for the year. All right, let's talk about content and what's there. Our marketing team has been really hard at work. I wanted to show you this real quick. Underneath this partners tab on the E1 website, we have a partner resources page that is now available. On this partner resources page, we have a ton of content. There are helpful links that go through the current pricing changes that have already happened on June 1st, the transition bundle options that your customers have. We also have access, or you also have access to a current price list. This is a common question that I get asked for those accountants having to enter those new items or those new pricings in the background. You also have access to different currencies and those pricing decks that you might need access to. We have renewal guides that'll step you through on potentially, different scenarios that you might run into. We have sample email templates that you can take as a starting place to email your customers as well if you haven't already started that. So lots of different helpful things here, and of course, links to webinars as well. So lots of fun things there that are available to help you. If you need help with any of this, once again, your account manager, or just simply, if you don't know who that is, you can always email into sales@e1solutions.com where we can help you with that as well. We have a lot of webinars and videos as well that are available to you. These webinars can be found on our events page, or, sorry, I'm gonna pop out of here again, just so you can see my path on how to get there. Underneath our resources tab, on our demo and events page, this is where we have all of our demos and events and trainings that are available coming up. So lots of PopDoc boot camps for you partners specifically. And of course, your customers can attend these as well. But those partners wanting to learn a bit more about, how am I going to install PopDoc, et cetera, those are really great options for you. There's lots of webinars around the SmartList suite for PopDoc. So if you have customers that are interested in learning, what does this mean for me? What do I actually have? Can you show me a demo of what this means? Feel free to send them to any of those webinars as well. All right, I think I'm going to hand it over to Chris Braddock. Chris Braddock is going to talk through what's happening on the 1st of July and what that means for those current SmartList Builder and SmartView customers. Chris Braddock, take it away.
We are very excited to be giving PopDoc to the SmartList Builder and SmartView perpetual customers on July 1. And I want to talk a little bit about what's going to happen. So by now, you can go ahead, Alicia, next screen. By now, we all know there are numerous ways for a business to utilize PopDoc. If you've been in a demo in the last year about PopDoc, you've heard that PopDoc is going to ask two questions of the customer's data. What do you want to see? Where do you want to see it? We're not going to read this list to you, but the message we want to land is that there are ways for customers to use PopDoc in their software stack that they haven't even dreamed of. And we want to be sure that they have that knowledge. We also want this conversation to go beyond the accounting team. PopDoc is not a one-trick pony, so we want anyone who needs to create ad hoc combined reports from one or more data sources to log into PopDoc and do so. So what's going to happen on July 1st? First, we're going to add a full version of PopDoc to every SmartList Builder and SmartView customer that is current on their AEP. So this will allow customers to try out all the features within PopDoc, like matrix reporting, and run unlimited queries in that time to determine which features are important to them so that they can pick the right plan at their next renewal. We're also going to send the first in a series of emails on July 1st that details how to create their PopDoc account, how to connect to GP, how to add their existing SmartList to PopDoc, how to prepare for and add users, and how to access training. Now, throughout the nurture campaigns that we have planned, we will be encouraging customers to work with you to help them get started with PopDoc. The E1 team will be standing by to help whenever you need it. And if you want to manage getting your customers started with PopDoc, you have that freedom. If you want us to help customers get started using PopDoc, we'll do that as well. All that we really ask is that you can communicate with your PDM or myself regarding your plans so that we know what's going on. Now, as customers approach their renewal dates for SmartList Builder and SmartView, we'll be looking to see if they have taken any steps to start using PopDoc. If they haven't, then our customer experience team will be reaching out directly and offer them assistance in getting started. Now, to help you prepare for these changes, we have a series of webinars on the calendar we encourage you to participate in. So on the first Friday of every month, we'll have an introduction to the new E1 Tools webinar. On the second Friday, there will be a PopDoc for Dynamics GP webinar. This is going to be a great look into how we've evolved into PopDoc, starting with SmartList Builder, then SmartView, and then PopDoc. On the fourth Friday, we'll have a webinar selling the iPaaS and architecting solutions. If you want to go to the next slide, Alicia. On the third Friday, there's a migrating to the cloud Q&A. So we'll talk about all the different options using PopDoc and the full E1 solution to migrate and embed data. And then twice a week, there's a E1 pricing update Q&A where Alicia jumps on to answer all of your questions about pricing. So these are all on the calendar. We encourage you to register for any of these that might answer your questions. Learn as much as you can about this stuff as we get started. And then always reach out to us. So the most important thing I want all of you to take away from this is that we're here to help. You can reach out to your PDM or myself at any time. We'll be happy to discuss how to help customers be wildly successful with PopDoc. And don't forget that when they get to their next renewal and they subscribe to PopDoc, they're actually going to be gaining tools. The majority of your customers just have SmartList Builder. So when they pick up this subscription, they're also going to add SmartView, and those three products working together is really going to bring a lot of extra value to GP. So from there, I think I'm kicking it over to Hanson. Oh, I'm sorry, I have one more slide. So how to get your team trained. We have a variety of upcoming boot camps. Again, those are on the calendar. Reach out to us if you need help registering. If you're not currently using PopDoc internally, if it's not in your stack, reach out to your PDM to get an IUR key. So we'll get you access so that you can get your team in there, start using the product, learn how to take advantage of it. And then every user that gets added to PopDoc will automatically be added to the self-paced training. So they'll have access to basic navigation tutorials, how to create the different kinds of custom lists, how to work with APIs. And then the customer experience team will always be available to answer any questions that come out of that training. Okay, now I think I'm kicking it over to Hanson.
Sounds good. And I'm actually going to take the presenter role here. Thank you, Chris. I'm going to take the presenter role here, and I'm going to show a couple things on the new Smart Connect features that are available. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just jump directly into it because I've got three main topics I wanted to go through. One is around new regional IP addresses. Another is the new documentation tool that we have within smartconnect.com that's also coming to on-premise. And then the third one is the new Smart Connect API that's inside of smartconnect.com and also coming to our on-premise version as well. So those are just three features I want to touch on. There's a few more than that, but these are ones that will impact people quite a bit and allow you to take advantage of them. So as you may have known, we've been rolling out different updates to different regions for Smart Connect. At this point in time, the main North America regions aren't updated quite yet, but most of our other ones have been completed through the update process. So everything that I talk about here will be available in Europe, UK, Australia, etc., just not in NA quite yet. But I still want to talk about them because they are fairly significant. One of the first ones is we've added a new IP address to each region, and we've got a blog on it that you can go out and find the specific IP address. Again, if you're wondering what this affects, and if you should be paying attention, a couple qualifiers around this. One is this only affects smartconnect.com. So if you or your customers are using on-premise Smart Connect, you don't have to worry about this particular piece at all. If you are using smartconnect.com and your customers actually have to go and whitelist those IP addresses to either allow access to, you know, an on-premise system or to like a CRM or Salesforce that you have locked down by particular IP ranges. We have a full listing of IP addresses per region that we utilize. Now, what we've done with this update that's being rolled out is we've added one more IP address to each region that we're utilizing. And if you've had to go through the process of whitelisting them before, you know that we have a number of IP addresses per region right now. So we might have 20 to 30 or more, depending on the region that you're working with. This new IP address is step one of our process to go ahead and narrow it down to one IP address per region in total. So we're going to go ahead and do a lot of work on we've done a lot of work on the Azure side so that everything is going to be routed through one IP address in the future. So that future isn't quite here yet. What we do have here is that additional IP address per region, get this added into that whitelist, and then within the next few weeks, we'll be having an announcement go out. When we're ready, we're going to be narrowing all traffic down to this IP address for each region on there. So that means your customers that have currently whitelisted multiple IPs, for any new customers that need to go ahead and whitelist, that process is going to be simplified immensely, because you're only going to have to put one in there rather than 20 or more to work with. So we've done that. It's going to be a massive quality of life improvement. It's something we wanted to do for a while, but we wanted to make sure that we don't complicate anything else or damage anything that might already be set up. So that's what's in progress with the new IP address ranges. Now, another feature that's coming that's kind of fun, and I'm showing this in our E1 region, as that's another region that's been updated, is we've got a new documentation process that we've added into SmartConnect. Now, this is in the regions that have been updated. If you're in NA, you've got to wait just a little bit longer to get this. And this will also be coming to on-premise in the next release for on-premise as well. So I may have waited too long and got signed out here. Nope, I'm still signed in. But what this allows us to do is set up documentation packages around integrations that you've built. So I'm just going to show this real quickly. And I'll go ahead and call this a new documentation. I will just call it demo. I can then go through and click and add any number of integrations up to 20 into this output that I want to work on. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple of SQL to SQL. I know my Shopify process here, Magento are all good ones. So I'll get a handful of integrations that I want to have SmartConnect document for me. And I can go ahead and just click process documentation when I've got the list that I want. So I could remove from here. I could add additional ones from my list, but I'll go through and it should process each of them. And it's going to create an HTML page with that documentation for us. So if I go ahead and actually open up let's do the Shopify one, because there's a lot of pieces to that. When we open it up, this is what it's going to look like for any documentation that it's been generating or what it's generated for you. So this is something that normally an end user, a consultant, someone on your team, on the E1 team, the customer themselves would have to go through and write out by hand if you're looking to go ahead and document out every integration. This automates the whole process. All you have to do is pick the integration you want and click generate on that. And it's going to go through, give you your integration ID, its name, description on here, and then each component that's used in the integration is going to be available and documented out for us. So I can see we've got our source and our target. I can go down and click on, I can see the specific source columns that it's pulling from the data source. I can see any additional columns that we've created within the integration mapping. So we've got a calculated field here that's actually returning the result of a lookup that's defined later on. We've got a local constant additional column with the actual value of it highlighted on here. So each part of that integration does fully get listed out, and someone can read through, you can review and actually see what's set up in the mapping. So those are all the different components to it. When we get down to the integration itself, this was running to both a create customer and an update customer destination. And you can see when you actually look through the mappings here, we've got the target that it's sending to, we have the source that was being passed through, and then the actual column type. So you can see we're using that REST lookup on the phone number. Must have been a test there for the customer ID. Same thing for the other one. So this takes every component of your integration, spits it out, and reduces all that time and effort. We've been using the pre-release version of this internally for a couple months now for our services team, because it improves their lives in terms of letting them generate that documentation and hand off for any projects that they're working on. But this will also let your team do the same thing, or your customers self-document their integrations they have as well. So that is something that's been released to the regions that have received our last update, and they should be coming shortly for the North America region. And then the next main on-premise release of SmartConnect will receive this as well. So just something, once again, we're trying to improve the quality of life, add in features that are going to go ahead and save time for you and your teams and for your customers. Now, the last feature I want to talk about, and I'm not going to go through a massive amount of detail on it, but I do want to point out that with this update that's been rolling out, we've also included a new version of the SmartConnect API. Now, if you're using the current version of the SmartConnect API or the SmartConnect web services, you don't have to change anything. That service and that API is remaining in place. But we've added a new one so that we're fully up to date with all the current standards, functionality that we want, security, etc. So we have a new REST API that is being self-documented in Swagger. So this part of the call is going to be a little bit more technical focused, but we've got a Swagger page that will self-document any of the endpoints on our API. We've expanded our API endpoints quite a bit. We've probably got 5 to 7 times more endpoints than we do on the current API, because we've had a lot of requests from either very technical teams or third-party companies that want to integrate with SmartConnect, but they want to be interacting with SmartConnect just through the API. They want to be able to call integrations from there, pull back errors, look at process history, all the sort of actions you can take through the UI. They want available inside of the API. So that's what we've went ahead and done. And we've documented it all out with, once again, with the Swagger documentation here. So as you can see, we've broken out more than just being able to run integrations. We can pull back data from the data source itself. So if I show my list here, you can go ahead and see that we can pull back all data sources that a customer or client might have set up. Can pull back an individual one. You can pull back the actual data that's returned on the source if you want. You can expand out each of these calls so you can see the examples or the actual data model that it's utilizing. So from a developer perspective, or someone that's very heavily technical, this is what you're looking for when you want to work with an API for a system. So we've expanded on this greatly. We've put in modern authentication around it, so you can actually go ahead and do OAuth authentication. And once again, this is being rolled out with the current updates that are going across regions, and the next version of SmartConnect on-premise will have this as well. So this is the API set that we'll be updating and maintaining going forward. I also want to reiterate that the current API isn't going anywhere, so you don't have to move stuff off of that if you've got custom processes set up utilizing it. This is just our way forward to be able to expand on that and allow for better use of our system. So with that being said, that wraps up the new features that I wanted to cover. And what I'm going to be doing now is handing over to Rod on our team, and he's going to talk about how SmartConnect and Power Automate function together, where they're alike, where they're different, and everything involving that. So let me make you a presenter here, Rod. Sorry.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Should be good to go with the roll.
Sounds good. Let me make sure I'm sharing the right monitor here. There we go. So yeah, we're going to be talking real quick about using SmartConnect with Power Automate. Just a couple quick slides here, and then a quick small demo. For some of you, you may have seen me do something similar to this in the past if you've come to our Solution Architect Roadshow or anything like that. before we kind of talk about how they work together, I just thought I'd go through some compare and contrast, old school style, because a lot of folks get confused between Smart Connect and Power Automate, and why do I need, one over the other? We don't necessarily think you need one over the other in total. We believe that each tool has its own place, but on the surface, they do look kind of similar. They're both about moving data around and automating processes that way. They're both presented as low-code tools. They both have a code element. We can talk about that when we talk about some differences. And they've both got real-time manual or change-based triggers, so you can kick off processes in different ways for different connectors, right? So on the surface, they look very, very similar. Now, on the differences side, I think the real difference from our standpoint is on focus, right? So I always like to say that, on the Power Automate side, we're really focusing on workflow management. So when we're moving data around, it's wicked good at, automations that include approvals or moving files around SharePoint, or, interacting with SharePoint tables, stuff like that. Whereas on Smart Connect side, we really do tend to be more focused on the more complex process automation. So, we're hitting multiple targets at the same time, or company data, or, customers who have multiple company databases in whatever their ERP is, stuff like that. We do focus on combinations of on-prem and cloud-focused systems. So there's really kind of a difference in focus there. They're both very, very good at what they do. And frankly, both could be applied to the other one's job. You could use Smart Connect to, automate a workflow. You could use Power Automate, as a lot of the MVPs have shown us, to build out more of a process automation. The difference there is a lot of times that starts to include Azure Functions, Azure Logic Apps, stuff like that. So again, there's a real difference in focus here. So when we talk about kind of when to use the two different tools, again, like I said, complex business processes is really where Smart Connect shines, because you can stay low to no code. We have a really high threshold for complex things that non-technical people can build. Whereas with Power Automate, the threshold for when code enters the scene seems to be a bit lower. But Power Automate is really good at workflow automation, especially where the productivity tools are in use. So in our case, we have a demo solution that we normally do. I'll flip over to my demo slides here. We do this a lot. You've seen me do this demo in other videos. Some of you have had me on calls doing this demo. We start out with basically this screen, which is an online sales form. It's meant to represent every data source you've ever worked with here. We're going to buy a unicycle today. Now, this is going through, as many of you have heard me say before, and doing a ton of things. It's creating invoices and customers in a few different ERPs. It's creating accounts and contacts and opportunities in a couple of different CRMs. It's hitting a couple of other online applications using REST APIs. But one of the things it's also doing is calling a Power Automate process to write a record out to a planner board, right? So what we have is the simplest little Power Automate process. And I want to click on edit just to show you the one step that Smart Connect needs so that we can call it, right? So when I'm creating this process, I need to be able to have Smart Connect reach out and call this process. So if I click on our manual kickoff here, we're just setting up a little HTTP call. This is out of the box REST connector on Microsoft's part. We set up what are the fields we want to pass into this particular thing. So mine is pretty simple. I'm passing in a description and a customer name. And then I've got a simple task that is just doing, a couple calculations, like setting a due date, entering the actual date, giving us a description, stuff like that. It's even assigning it to me, which is fun because we do this demo a couple times a day. So I get a lot of notifications that I'm late on tasks. But So yeah, that's one of the simplest things. Now, we don't care what you have after here. This isn't a Power Automate process or Power Automate demo, but you could go through and build a lot of that workflow stuff, have Smart Connect kick it off, and then I'll talk later about Power Automate calling Smart Connect. Over on the Smart Connect side, we're just setting up Power Automate as one of our standard REST connectors, and I did what Chris thought he did and waited too long. So let me get logs back in here real quick. I apologize to everyone. I'm usually better than this. All right, so I'm going to go to REST services, and I do have what I just named my generic Power Automate connector. So it's a really quick setup. We're just setting up, the base URL, which Microsoft gave us for that particular thing. And I'm going to set up service destinations. Okay, so you can see I've got a few different endpoints here that I've set up for this particular Power Automate. Back in the day, we didn't actually have the ability through Smart Connect already to pass messages into Teams, so I was doing that through Power Automate. Today, we've actually got that connector, so you can do it directly through Smart Connect. So I don't tend to focus on those two, but the planner task itself was, again, wicked easy to set up. We're just putting in what the name of the endpoint is. We're giving it a verb, which was set on the Microsoft side. We're passing in our fields from the actual integration. So then the next thing we would have done is set up, whatever our data source is for this particular integration. In my case, it's a SQL Server table. We would have set up the Smart Connect process to map that SQL Server data source into this REST API endpoint. And then it's going to kick that off. Now, what I did was I set this integration up as an ask after integration success. In my case, because I'm processing one document at a time, you could have called this after document success, either way. And then that Power Automate process gets kicked off. So at the end of the day, let me drag over my Teams here. So at the end of the day, you can see that I've got this task that we just created. It is assigned to me, and that was entirely Smart Connect calling Power Automate while I was talking at you about how to set that up. All right, now, as Chris mentioned, Smart Connect does have its own REST API as well. He showed you the documentation for the newer version of the API, which is up and coming. He also mentioned the existing REST API, which is there today, and it is, it is there today, and it's we have folks using it. The one that's there today applies to both on-premise and .com, and the one that's coming, I believe, is starting with .com and will eventually come to on-prem. So basically, what you can do is at any point within a Power Automate process, you can call out to the Smart Connect REST API and pass data in. So some of those more complex things where you maybe need to switch over to a developer so that they can write you those Azure functions and logic apps and all that other stuff, you can skip that step and go straight to still using no code to get those more complex integrations built out. So that is using Smart Connect and Power Automate together. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Alicia, who's going to talk about some other stuff. Let me make you presenter. And Alicia, I see your screen, but you're still muted.
Oh, can you see my PowerPoint screen? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I can see your PowerPoint screen. You have our back.
Okay, great. I wasn't sure which one of my three screens it was showing. Okay, thanks for that, Rod. That's some exciting stuff. All right, so let's wrap up here with a few things just to let you know, as always, our sales team, our support team, our consulting team, all have your back. We're here to help with all of this. We are also going to be seeing you at some upcoming events. We have SuiteWorld coming up in September. We will also be attending Days of Knowledge America. This is the very first Days of Knowledge America. These are historically done over in Europe. So they're coming to the US, and I'll talk about that in just a second. We have a large team once again attending Community Summit in October. And then of course, we'll talk more about this again next quarter, but we also have a team attending Directions EMEA as well. I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about some in-person training that we have. The first one is the migration training that we have that is going to take on the front end of the Days of Knowledge America. So this is going to be migration training. So this is free to register for when you register for the to attend Days of Knowledge America. This is going to cover archiving historical data into your data lake, creating lists with PopDoc, and then embedding those into Business Central. You can obviously take that further but this is obviously Business Central focused conference, but you can take that knowledge with you if you have NetSuite customers or Acumatica, for example, or Intacct. So you can also learn how to embed that data inside of that new ERP system. This is where I want to talk a little bit about Days of Knowledge America as well. So we are incredibly proud to be a sponsor at this new event in the US. We've always been a very strong supporter of the Directions community in North America, and now they've partnered with Directions EMEA to bring one of their best technical learning events to the United States. So we're hoping that you can join us at this event, add it to your calendar. I know that it's another event as well to attend, but this one is a lot different in that the content in this event is designed and geared towards technical teams. So the technical consultants, the developers, the solutions architects, and those who are essentially designing and delivering those solutions. So Microsoft is great. They bring a community of MVPs to cover the technical aspects of Microsoft's latest and greatest solutions to you. So you get the first look at those as well from a technical aspect. We've supported 3 of these events in Europe. We attend these every year, and they are very, very highly attended and very, very highly recommended. So if you have technical members of your team that want to attend a techie only event, please consider that is very, very good over in the Europe community. So listening to those experts from Microsoft is always great. So once again, our team will be having this migration training on the front end of that conference. So that conference is September 13th and 14th, and the pre-event, which is our training, takes place on September 12th. The date in here is wrong. I will get that updated before it's sent out in the follow-up email as well. The other thing that we want to encourage is that we have a PopDoc bootcamp prior to Summit. So if your team has not yet been trained on PopDoc, there's a couple different things. Chris Braddock touched on this earlier as well. But if you're going to be at Summit, consider attending this PopDoc bootcamp. Also consider sending your customers that now have access to PopDoc to this bootcamp. We are reducing the price of this. We're only charging $100 for this bootcamp. They can learn all about PopDoc, kind of how it works with Smart List Builder, how it works with SmartView. It is a condensed version of our normal PopDoc bootcamp. It's only from 1 to 5 Central Time. So it is a condensed version of that on the day prior to Summit starting. So highly consider that. If you need access or need a link, we will also send a follow-up after this call is done with the recording as well. So you can push those customers to that training if they're going to plan to attend Summit. One last thing before we jump to our questions is we are once again continuing to expand our team. We've added a couple new team members since our last Partner All Hands call. Amit, he is one of our senior support engineers. And then we also have Robert Heineman. He is a technical consultant. One of the things is that we've hired these gentlemen to cover more hours. So on the support side, Amit is working different hours. And then on the consulting side and also helping with some support as well, Robert is able to cover a broader amount of hours based on their location, New Zealand and India. So lots of new added hours, so that way we can respond to those support requests and consulting requests a lot easier. All right, I've talked a lot. Let's jump into questions. The first question I see in here is there any training for Asia? Nothing in person today. If you have a specific time that you're not seeing works, a specific time outside of what we have in our events calendar, send us an email to sales@e1solutions.com. We also do private training, so we can schedule a training time with your team if we don't have something available already for you. So send us an email, sales@e1solutions.com, or we can obviously reach you as well after this webinar to talk to you about those options for you. Oh, this is a great question. Have you updated your renewal site for the new pricing for these AEP customers? As many of you notice, we've ran into some difficulties deploying our new pricing. A lot of it is fixed for the new subscription and new purchases. The AEP customers, actually, it's not planned to release that pricing on our website until July 1st. So until then, you'll need to use those pricing guides to get those quotes, or if you have any questions about what you should invoice your customers for the month of July or August, depending on how far in advance you invoice, shoot us an email. We'd be happy to tell you what that pricing looks like for those customers. On July 1st, we will display that pricing for you. And then of course, quotes after that are going to be a little bit easier. There is a question in here about queries as well on PopDoc. So for example, if you would go over those 20,000 queries, what happens? Do we cut you off? We are monitoring that. We're not going to say, hey, you go 20,001 queries and PopDoc's going to stop working for you. It's something our team will be alerted on, and we will also alert you on and work with you on what a plan would be to continue at that level or potentially move up to a different tier. So you're not going to lose immediate access to that. We will work with you on that. There's another great question here about the customers who are receiving PopDoc on the 1st of July. Any customer that is current on their Smart List Builder or SmartView renewal, they don't need to own both. They can have one or the other. Any one of those customers is going to get access to PopDoc on the 1st of July. So they do not need to own both of them to get access to PopDoc, just one or the other, and current. Yes, we will be sending through. The question is, will you get access to this slideshow afterwards? Yes, we will send through the slideshow. We'll send through the recording. We'll send through links to the boot camps that we have coming up as well as a link to Days of Knowledge Atlanta. Once again, for your technical consultants, I feel like sometimes those team members are left out, so I highly encourage signing up for that as well. There's a question about Intact, PopDoc for Sage Intact. Chris, do you want to give an update on where that is at and what our customers can currently do with PopDoc for Sage Intact?
Yeah, great question. So we are getting very close to having a Sage Intacct connector out. It is going to be on their existing API. We were hopeful that their new REST API was going to be available a bit sooner, and they moved the bar on that, basically adding another year to it. So we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. So we're going to get the first edition out on their older API, which isn't quite as good. But that being said, what we're doing quite a bit these days is we're able to embed the history, right? So people that maybe are leaving GP or SL or NAV, we're able to show all that historical information right inside of Intacct. So we can embed that with PopDoc and allow people that are going that route instead of, Business Central or F&O or NetSuite or whatever it may be, we're giving them path to be able to see all of their history and not lose access to that. So that's what I would say today we can embed anything we want to inside of Intacct. Actually accessing Intacct data is probably about 2 months away. And then you'll have a connector for that. And then probably another 9 months to a year before Intacct actually has their new API out that we can redo that connector and make it optimized.
Awesome. While you're on, Chris, do you want to give us an update? I know we have some new exciting features coming in PopDoc. We'll probably talk about that on our next Q3 partner all hands call, and I'm guessing. But when are we expecting the next PopDoc release with some new features in it? Will that be Q3 or Q4, are you thinking?
Yeah, it is going to be in Q3. We had high hopes that we would have it at the end of Q2 here, but it's going to sneak into Q3 a little bit. There's going to be a lot of features in here, and so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be kind of launching an information campaign to make sure that you are aware of all of the new things that are being put in here to make your lives a little bit easier and your customers a little bit easier. So that's going to start coming out in July is when we'll start releasing those videos and blog articles. And again, hopefully soon after that, we'll have the full product for you to play with. But we're really excited about it. We're just hanging out just a little bit longer because we're making sure that everything we put out is the highest quality.
Awesome. Sounds good. I do have a question about the 20% increase as well for our perpetual customers. I'll address that one. So our goal is to keep the costs of delivering software as a service as low as possible across the suite of solutions we offer, but they have increased. The 20% increase is how we will be able to make the necessary product investments and deliver important enhancements in the next few years while supporting and continuing to improve the experience for our on-prem SmartConnect customers. So we know our customers are needing to connect to more systems, more for integration, migration, and reporting scenarios. So we are on a mission to deliver enterprise-grade functionality at mid-market pricing. There is another question about training and documents in Spanish. Unfortunately, today we do not offer any documentation or training in Spanish, so my apologies for that. Okay, think I got to all of the questions. If you do have additional questions, feel free to email sales at E1 Solutions or your account manager. Once again, I truly, truly appreciate your partnership with us. We're looking forward to making the rest of the year really great. Thanks, everyone. Take care.